Thank you. In order to ensure that everyone can clearly hear our presenters, I'll ask you to please mute your line, and you do that by pressing *# your desktop phone or your mobile device. We ask that you please hold your questions and comments during the presentations and to share them in the Q&A pod, which will be in the bottom left-hand corner of the next screen. Or you can also use the Raise Your Hand feature, which you can do by clicking the Set Status icon at the top of your screen. It's that little person that has their hand raised. You just click on that arrow. Dropbox will come down and you'll select what action you would like to take. So by doing that, by raising your hand or sharing a question in the pod, as hosts and presenters, we'll see that you have one, and then once the presentations are complete, David and I will help field those questions, either reading them out loud or asking you to please share them when the time is right. Again, I encourage you to actively participate. Don't hesitate to type in those pods, such as sharing your name and location, which we have here, utilizing the features such as raising your hand, muting and unmuting your line, or downloading the available documents at the end of the presentation. You can't make any mistakes. The worst thing you can do is disconnect yourself. You won't disconnect the whole webinar. So if you do get disconnected sometime during the webinar, just click on the link again and or dial the phone number again, and you'll be right back in. So thanks again for joining us, and I'll hand it over to David.
Thank you, Jessica. My name is David Mitchell. I am the administrator with Iowa Vocational Rehabilitation Services, and as part of our Iowa Employment First effort, we're very excited about doing this inaugural community of practice call with Iowa participants. We've kind of modeled this off of the Department of Labor's Office of Disability and Employment Policy, which has provided guidance and funding to Iowa over the last 3 years to help continue this discussion of how do we increase employment opportunities in Iowa for individuals with the most significant disabilities. We had close to 60 registrants representing a variety of organizations and service professionals across the state register for our community practice. And we'll have people join in at different times throughout the next few months. And you're welcome to be live with us anytime you can. If you can't, as Jessica said, we'll be able to record this and archive it so you'll be able to catch up and listen to this. This is really our effort to share information across systems and to provide an opportunity for dialogue at all levels. Now, this webinar format's a little difficult for actual dialogue, but the context is we'll get information out from a variety of people that we think is important for everybody to hear, so we have a common base of what's being discussed. And as you have questions, as Jessica said, please use the chat feature. We may or may not have time to get to all of those, but we'll certainly get them recorded and be able to send out responses through the distribution list or find ways to integrate answers into future programs. So we want you to use the chat feature. There'll be a survey at the end of the webinar that you'll have a chance to take 3 minutes and provide us some quick answers, as well as comments on what you hope to implement, or gaps or other ideas of what you want to hear about in the future. And we plan to take that information and figure out ways that we can address that information to make it valuable for each of you. And then we'll also have some email distribution that you can get to. I want to thank Sherry Becker. Sherry's the Executive Director with the North Iowa Vocational Center out of Mason City, and Terry Johnson, who's the Executive Director for Genesis Development. Both Sherry and Terry agreed and volunteered with minimal arm twisting to kick us off this today and share some information about their programs, what they're doing in their organizations to move employment forward, some of the things that they're excited about that's working well, as well as some of the gaps and issues and concerns that they might have, so that we can kind of take that and learn from that as we go forward. I want to provide just in a very quick fashion a little bit of an update on Employment First activities. And when we talk about Employment First in Iowa, we really can't talk about it without also mentioning the IC program and the DEI program. IC is the Iowa Coalition for Integrated Employment, and they have 5 model employment transition sites across the state. And our DEI is the Disability Employment Initiative, which is being sponsored through our Iowa Workforce Development Center. And Doug Keese has been the key facilitator of that program. The DEI is really looking at how do we increase employment for people with disabilities through the workforce system, and they've developed some integrated resource teams and have a number of initiatives to do that. On the map that you have in front of you, you'll see some shaded areas. The little yellow stars represent our pilot projects that started off almost 3 years ago with Employment First. And that represents Candeo in central Iowa, Story County Community Life in Ames, Nishna Productions in Red Oak, Cass Incorporated in Atlantic, Iowa, Van Buren Job Opportunities down in Keosauqua, Hope Haven in Rock Valley, and North Iowa Vocational Center in Mason City. Those were our 7 initial Employment First projects. We were able to do that and have continued to build on that through a partnership with the IC staff, and that's Jessica Creho and Amy Dessenberg-Wines. And through the IC efforts, on the map you'll see little yellow school buses. Those are the model employment transition sites that are specifically being targeted with transition efforts. And those are located in Atlantic, a couple in Dubuque, Clear Lake, and Emmitsburg. And again, this has been a coordinated effort throughout with IC, Employment First, and the DEI staff. The shaded areas represent the sectors of the workforce development system. The DEI projects are in Spencer, Waterloo, Des Moines, Sioux City, and Burlington. That's just to give you a little picture of a little bit of an overview and the coordination going on between our 3 major initiatives occurring in the state. This is just a quick picture, just so you see some faces, of our Iowa Employment First leadership team. And this was taken in Washington, D.C. In the front row is Lynn Niblick. Lynn works with the Disability Employment Initiatives Program through the Department of Human Services and the Division of Mental Health and Disability. Next to her is Leanne Moskowitz. Leanne works with the Iowa Medicaid Enterprise System through their Bureau of Long-Term Care. And then to the right of Leanne is Assistant Secretary of the Office of Disability and Employment Policy, Kathy Martinez. And this, a lot of our efforts are due to the support and sponsorship of the Department of Labor's Office of Disability and Employment Policy. To Kathy's right is Ashley Lance. Ashley is the lead employment coordinator for Candeo. And in the middle is Shelley Chandler. Shelley is the executive director for the Iowa Association of Community Providers. I'm to Shelley's left. In the back row is Becky Harker. Becky is the director of the Iowa Developmental Disabilities Council. To her right is Sue Ann Morrow. Sue Ann is an employment services specialist through Money Follows the Person, which is housed through the Center for Disabilities and Development in Iowa City. And to Sue Ann's right is Doug Keese. Doug is the coordinator, program coordinator for the Iowa Workforce Development Center. So that's just a picture of the lead team. And I want to, as we got started initially, we've added to that lead team. And I want to mention Sarah Renner. Sarah worked with the MIG grant, the Medicaid Infrastructure Grant, and has recently changed positions and left her employment. But Sarah was a key person from day one in helping us lay out a vision for how this might all play out. And we've also added Jessica and Amy from our IC grant and Leanne Russo from vocational rehabilitation. So all of those individuals have worked together and spent considerable amount of time in the last 2 years to help us get to this point. This is a website which ties you into the Iowa Vocational Rehabilitation main page. And on the left-hand section of the IVRS webpage, there's a link that says Customized Employment. And if you click on that Customized Employment link, you'll be taken to a number of webinars and programs that talk about Employment First and Customized Employment, and you'll get a little bit of the history of what brought us today. We'll also be sending this PowerPoint as well as the other PowerPoints out via the distribution list following the completion of today's program, so you'll be able to have access to all of this. This is just a quick foreshadowing of what's to come, and you've all received this, and you'll get this again in the PowerPoint. But we're planning a monthly series, and we have planned out some sessions and speakers. But again, we can tweak those based upon comments you provide and specific information you want to get addressed. And if we don't have time to address that information in these specific programs, we will find some other ways to either create some additional webinars or get information out to you to meet the questions that you come up with. And then finally, you just have the email address for Jessica and myself. And again, please feel free to communicate to either Jessica or myself at any point in time you have any comments or questions or ideas for topics down the road, and we'll work hard to try to get those addressed. With that, I'm going to stop, and we're going to turn it over to our guest today, and we're going to start with Sherry Becker. So Sherry and Terry, thank you for joining us, and Sherry, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Hello, everybody. I just managed, I'll tell you, for those of you who know me well, and I just managed to tip my vitamin water all over the top of my desk. So life continues here in North Iowa. At any rate, flexibility is called for during all these times of change. And in my presentation today, I'm going to tell you a little bit about NIVC. We started the change process back in 2008. And certainly we're all facing change now, and I'm just going to try to share some of our experiences through that process and why it positioned us to really embrace the Employment First movement. So NIVC Services is an organization located in Mason City, Iowa. We have a budget of about $4 million. We have 50 staff, and we serve over 450 North Iowans, 451 last year, with disabilities annually. We have 3 unique business models. Affordables and Affordables on First are thrift stores located in downtown Mason City where we provide retail training. The Work Center, featured in this slide, is located in Industrial Park. It is our light manufacturing location and our administrative offices. I guess the staff who aren't located at this location call it the mothership because I'm here. It's a fairly typical segregated model providing paid work training through outsourced contract work from area businesses. It's also original site of our businesses and services and why we go by NIVC now, but we were originally called the North Iowa Vocational Center, so everything happened out of one location. It houses our largest business, a wood pallet and crate building operation, as well as several other small businesses, including an assembly and packaging operation. This location is the source of our financial freedom as an organization, but it's also the source of our service-related woes and angst because it's segregated. JOBLINK is located in downtown Mason City. NIVC has a long-standing commitment to community employment services. I was hired to formally start the community employment program as part of my internship for my rehabilitation counseling degree back in 1994. So we've been at this for a while. Somewhere around 2000, we wanted our community employment offices to be located downtown and to be disassociated with our traditional services. So that's when the JOBLINK division was conceptualized. Now, however, the JOBLINK name represents our entire services division because everything we do at NIVC is about helping people find jobs. I'm sharing these slides quickly, not because the pictures are terrific. I know they're not. I didn't have time to get it, anything that wasn't on my network. But I wanted you to have a chance to see all the aspects of NIVC and to maybe see similarities with your own organization. I spend a lot of time talking about community employment, but I wanted you to know that I have a lot of other stuff going on. NIVC's motivation for organizational change focus on the need for our organization to be financially viable because our businesses subsidize our community employment services. So truly, no margin, no mission. And we had a great sense of urgency because it was all about money. We wanted to improve employment outcomes for our clients, but we also wanted and needed to distinguish ourselves from other providers and businesses so we could grow and flourish. This slide is a snapshot of the issues we were facing. We had a lot going on in 2008. There were many challenging situations. In addition to the financial stuff, several key partners had closed and moved outside the country. We had workforce challenges because the people being referred did not have funding. The people being referred had more complex disabilities. The desire, actually, for sheltered work was not as high because we'd been trying to promote community employment, and our clients were telling us they wanted more of that and less sheltered work. Ironically, many of the issues that I'm talking to you about continue to persist today. We haven't resolved them all, and we've had even other issues emerge. But my message today is that the change process and our ability to embrace change has resulted in many significant opportunities that have allowed us to learn new strategies to keep moving forward. In other presentations, I spend a lot of time talking about the methodology of our change, but today I'm just going to highlight what worked, what hasn't, what we continue to struggle with, and our plans for the future. We are very proud of Project Search North Iowa. This is a skill building and internship program for transition to age students and young adults. This type of project required a lot of collaboration, not just sign your name on the bottom line, but roll up your sleeves and attend a lot of meetings and hammer out details that everyone can live with. The opportunities for collaboration between local, state, and national agencies is one of the hallmarks of the Employment First IC grant. In today's rapidly changing landscape, the ability to adapt and change and collaborate with partners are really critical to success. This, however, is a lot like exercise. It's easy to talk about. It's even a point of pride for me. But to keep to it and stay on it, it's a lot more taxing than you'd think. So what's working? We couldn't move forward with our change process without a well-thought-out business model to finance the improvement in integrated employment outcomes. We had to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of our viable businesses through our business partnerships. And I got to tell you, it's really working for us. We've had 2 Kaizen events with our #1 customer, and we improved a lot of efficiencies. We implemented lean strategies in all aspects of our businesses, including services. We've hired people with disabilities as production workers and as staff. We've worked on 2 big projects with Iowa State University CIRRUS, the manufacturing arm, and they come to us now to this last time they came to us to try to model a program, and that got us working with a lot of other businesses who came to learn that strategy. We've joined APEX, that's an inventory control group that a lot of our business partners have joined. And we try to do the same thing with our services and our service partners. Some improvements, I think, are that we start discharge planning as soon as a person comes into services. Discovery and customized employment has given us and our clients a new option. I think it's really exciting that it's on the IVRS menu now with Voc Rehab. Certificate skills training is working for us. We really feel strongly that people need transferable skills to be competitive. And so we have training in retail, food service, and project search at the hospital. We're working on janitorial and manufacturing curriculums. Our newest project through the ICE grant is a caregiver certified nursing assistant training in nursing homes. We also have focused on transition. We know the way to change the world is to not let young people come down a segregated path, to close that door. So we've worked on project search, and we're also working on a transition camp this summer that's funded by our United Way. We train our staff all the time. We try to participate in state and national opportunities. We also do marketing now. We really try to talk about what we do and share that with our community because that messaging creates more opportunities for us. So what's working look like? I think these two smiles say it all. JavaWorks is our newest business venture. We have a coffee shop at the Mason City Public Library. Some of the folks in the grant, we had a meeting there and they visited. We've recently been approached by the hospital about opening another JavaWorks location at their campus. People are on our payroll, but they're still engaged in integrated opportunities to build those transferable skills. And they also build their confidence, and that's what results in job placements. The young man working at Culver's on the other side no longer works with us. He's working full. He really has a great life, and I think he represents a lot of what we're trying to build around our clients. Job placements year-to-date for us would be 42 this year, and our fiscal year runs July through June. So we're on track to make our 65 or 70 placements this year. I don't think you can deny that success builds momentum. If you look at our numbers now, we're serving more people in more services. We have more tools in our toolbox to serve people because of our commitment to staff and agency development and our participation in these projects. Ironically, again, our change process began because we wanted to increase business income, but our service income has grown more dramatically. Our outcomes are better, and the individuals we're serving have more complicated issues and more significant disabilities. Customized employment is an important strategy for helping us help people with complex disabilities that we had not served effectively in the past. I'm going to tell you about one of those in a minute. The organizational interaction for organizations that have happened because of these grants, I think, is also really important part of this change effort. We've had a chance to get together and network and communicate with our peers and dialogue about some really tough issues. I think this call is part of that because it's trying to hook us up so we continue those dialogues after this webinar is over. There's been other more intangible benefits. Our service and business teams meet regularly to track progress. Teams report progress and successes at quarterly staff meetings. When we started the change, we upped the communication level within our organization to keep everyone on board, and now our staff demand that. The expectation is that reports are data-driven, not emotional. Busy, very busy doesn't cut it anymore. We want to know how busy people are in terms of how many clients are you serving, how many placements have you made, how many job coaching hours are left on the table, do you have any new business contacts or new employer contacts, that kind of information. All of our meetings follow the same agenda to help ensure effective communication between every group, and all of our meetings begin with a focus on the mission, including our board meeting. I wanted to share an example of someone in customized employment who had been served in our traditional employment service earlier. This slide is an excerpt from Brad's visual resume. Brad had gone through traditional JOBLINK placement services several times without success. Customized employment helped staff work with Brad's family to identify not only strengths and skills, but barriers. And I just have to say that Brad's slide that he showed to employers did not have like E's and G's dropping off. When I transferred it, apparently I did that, not Brad. So anyway, they really got to some barriers and helped his family move forward with a lot of meetings. Brad has a motorized wheelchair now that he's needed for a long time. His family has an accessible van. Brad has a job in the community at the college in the athletic department taking tickets. He takes tickets at every home athletic event. He even negotiated with the department to get his parents free tickets to the events because they provide his transportation. It's a real inspiring story for all of us. So, of course, there's still issues and what's not working. Peter Drucker said it's easier for companies to come up with new ideas than to let go of the old ones, and I think that's really true. We continue to try to balance the conflicting demands of our old system and our new system, and it's really hard on staff capacity. The opportunities that we have now, we're so excited about them, and we don't want to see them stop coming, but I'm pretty good about adding on to people and not so good about eliminating or removing outdated duties or tasks for them. We're still serving some transition students in segregated settings. We're still having some challenges getting involved with the transition project in Clear Lake, but we're working on it. Our supported employment and Java Works coffee shop are still losing money. That's not great. We try to get everything to balance. Practice and theory, they say, and I love all the evidence-based stuff, and in theory, practice and theory are the same, but we know that in practice, they're not always the same, and it's not always easy to implement all that stuff. We're having major discussions right now about where to put the customized employment job development stuff. Like everybody wants to do discovery, but not everybody has the skills to do job development. Staff training, we have a lot of opportunities just like this webinar, but we also have billable time expectation, and it's hard to get people to training and make the best use of all the training that's available to us in Iowa right now. We're also, concerned about bricks and mortar. We have a lot of expense with that. Sure be easier if we ran a community-based program. We have decentralized services now, and if everybody worked out of their home, it'd be cheaper. I'm also concerned about the unintended consequences of policy shifts. I'm all about community employment, but I don't want to see people that don't get jobs right away go into day hab and not be looking for work. So we talked a lot about that when we worked on the DHS, definitions and discussions too. I'll move on so I give Terry some time. What's next for us? Well, we're going to keep working our plan. We really use James Cotter's book with 8 steps for change. We're going to keep gathering input and data and making improvements. We're going to collect that data, and Peter Drucker, that guru, says what gets measured gets improved. We're going to keep doing the quality improvement stuff, that continuous quality improvement where we make revisions, evaluate our services and our businesses, project future development, and align that strategic plan with our daily work. We want to decrease the amount of time people receiving services are here before they enter the general workforce. We want to have an integrated workforce. We want other populations with barriers to look at NIVC for employment skills training and support until they can get a job. We want to continue expanding transition services so youth no longer participate in any segregated service. We want to continue to reallocate our state resources like we're going to do, like the state is trying to do now, to incent work in the general labor market. Perhaps one of the coolest things that's happened to us is that we have positions staffed internally and externally to welcome change. Our demonstrated desire and efforts to change have positioned us to benefit from other new opportunities. People come to us with new ideas, like I told you about the hospital, because they know that NIVC is willing to take the necessary risks that go with that change. I'm really proud of that and proud of the agency for that. It's not always easy. In another presentation I did, I said that change really has become business as usual for us. And I think that's the real essence of what we've learned and the change in our culture. If we're not changing, we're staying the same, and that is a recipe for disaster. I really thank you for your interest in inviting me to share in this journey of change with you. Thanks.
Thank you, Sherry. Hopefully you'll be able to get dried off from your vitamin water spill. And
I'll sop it up during Terry's presentation.
bet. We're going to turn it over now to Terry Johnson, Genesis Development, which is one of our major community organizations that cover South and North Central Iowa. And as Sherry was talking, just as a reminder, what we're trying to do in these first few webinars is hear from some of the Iowa practitioners. And then that will lead into a late spring where we go into a series of subject matter experts that the Office of Disability Employment Policy have provided to us that'll kind of dig deeper into the weeds on customized employment, discovery, job development, job placement principles. So we're going to first hear from the first couple of sessions on what we're doing in Iowa and what some of the projects are experiencing, hopefully get some feedback on questions you guys have, and then that'll lead into some strategies as we talk more about specific employment service practice. So Terry, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, David. First I want to compliment Sherry on her presentation. I've seen it a couple times, and I find it one of those things where I look at it and think, well, why aren't we doing more of that stuff? So I'm always a little bit jealous, I guess, when I see her do her presentation. I found is when you adapt something, you end up screwing it up pretty well. So hopefully it won't be too terrible, but you know, we'll see how it goes with this. We feel that we need to talk a little bit about our history, again, to tell you where we came from, kind of where we're going, and you can all relate to that. I don't think anything that we do is anything exceptional compared to anybody else. Everybody has their challenges, and we're just going to share some of ours today. So, going on, in the olden days, we're in small town Iowa. This is something that Genesis has kind of looked at ourselves as being hinterland people. We're not in any large metropolitan areas, although, you know, what is large metropolitan in Iowa? Anything over 5,000 people seems to be a pretty good sized town for us. So it's a question as to what really a small town is. You know, we seem to have a recession every other week when we got started with this, and you know, you can call this a reason or an excuse, but we kept belly aching about how terrible the world was treating us and why we couldn't get work and why we couldn't find jobs for our folks. So where do we find the jobs? One of the things we ran into was, rather than depend on others, we decided to develop our own businesses. Again, in small town Iowa, whether an excuse or a reason, there never seemed to be enough work out there. And so we just decided to develop our own stuff with this. First business we actually created was the packaging and livestock vending. We took a look around, and where are we? Well, we're in rural Iowa. So what do we do with that? So that's the first thing that we did, and frankly, it was a unique experience for us, and we hung with it for quite a few years, frankly. From there, we went on to some bigger and more expensive toys, box making, which we have at our Jefferson site. We now sell internationally into all 50 states. The big toys are like that one blue machine in the middle there. You know, that's like a $104,000 machine that I don't know how to turn on or run or anything like that, and they won't let me because we'll mess it up. But it's been a very good, a very unique opportunity for our people, because it fits well into the industrial complex of small town Iowa. We went into laundry, again providing services to hotels, hospitals, and we have several federal contracts through the old NISH, now called Source America. This particular machine is a $500,000 machine. It'll do anything but vacuum, I think. It's better at that price. And it's just one of those things that when you get into it, you realize that...
I don't think it has anything to do with her. She says if you were... Sorry, Terry. Yeah. If you haven't muted your line, can you please do so? We're hearing some side conversations. Star pound or hit the mute feature on your phone. No. Thank you. Sorry, Terry. Go ahead.
That's okay. I thought maybe you wanted me to mute mine. So.
No.
Okay. We also do some printing and promotional items for Staples International. That's up in Storm Lake. Again, a good opportunity for our folks. Lots of possibilities with machinery and that type of stuff. So we really looked at the idea of communities.
Yeah. So other than she was like,
I apologize, Terry.
That's okay.
told you. And then she wanted to
Again, can you mute your line if you're not presenting? We can hear your side conversations. Thank you.
well, it's just the way I am, and so she sat and read all her notes, all my notes, and
She's always liked to read first.
and so.
So moving on.
She even wrote notes.
Our goal from the beginning was to develop businesses to provide an integrated model within our own building. Again, the problem with small-town Iowa is finding jobs for folks.
Not an issue. I get upset with
So
that.
we decided we were going to develop the jobs ourselves.
At least you know I can be nice.
It was supposed to be an integrated model within our building. The biggest problem we had was we continued to have more referrals coming in than we could integrate.
Bed bugs.
I think part of it is the type of work that we were doing interested a lot of people. It was industrial. There was automation to it. It was real work. And so I think we received a tremendous amount of referrals just because of the type of work that we had. And because of that, it was difficult to integrate because we continued to get so many referrals. And, of course, our people should be the ones that get the work first, so we struggled with that.
Yeah, you weren't even here this last week.
We did have a couple of second shifts that we ran in which we had mostly people from the outside working, and we integrated a little bit with some of the people that we serve, so that was a positive for us.
Said, well, it's cold, but sometimes not, and I opened it and said,
Work. We've been doing enclaves forever. I note here that our first
but it worked
was
the same
a seasonal corn sorting crew that we did at a local seed company in 1981. Didn't realize that was an enclave because we didn't know that's what it was called. We've been doing them for a long time. First work center was in Jefferson. Since then, we've added 3 more work centers in Storm Lake, Indianola, and Boone. We continued to make placements out of our services into the mainstream of employment, continued, though, to get a lot of referrals for what most people call sheltered work.
Back anymore.
Our employment services program grew to 9
And I said, I don't know when I'll be back because I won't be back this week.
stations at our various sites.
So I don't know when I'm going to be back again.
I'm sorry, Terry.
Like she said, I
Again, folks, if you can hear me, I really need you to mute your lines by pressing *# or the mute feature on your phone. Because of the volume of callers, I'm not able to identify you and mute you myself. So again, out of respect for the presenters, can you please mute your line? Thank you.
Okay, so when IVRS made their decision to curtail referrals, meaning the selective placement stuff, it did impact our ability to sustain the number of staff members we needed. That hurt a bit. So jumping to present, a couple of years ago, and it's probably been a little bit longer than that, we developed a vocational work group to begin downsizing and or closing our work centers. This came, again, from most of the discussion everybody is aware of Department of Justice looking at other states and having impact there. I guess we kind of saw the writing on the walls, felt that this was the direction we were going. I will tell you, initially, there was a tremendous amount of resistance. We, again, felt that, well, if they just come and look at our work centers, it'll be much different, just like everybody else thought. So we did feel that we had some viable stuff, but we understood that this was the direction things were going. We became involved with the Employment First grant, and it's been over a year now, I think, that we've been involved with that. We were not one of the initial ones, but we kind of got ourselves involved after that and have been involved ever since. This brought Nancy Gurney in to visit our work centers as the subject matter expert. And we had heard a lot about Nancy and the fact that she didn't like work centers and she'd closed down all these work centers. And, of course, we were going to invite her to 4 of ours, and we just basically expected that, that was going to be it. We were planning on hearing that she was going to tell us to close the work centers. But she kind of liked our business plan. Now, I wouldn't say she loved it, but she liked it. And the pieces that she liked was it was real work. It wasn't make work. It wasn't little fun. It was fairly industrial. We did have a business model that we were able to express to her and make her understand where we were coming from. It was integrated work in the fact that we have been hiring people from the, quote, outside for a long, long time. Our struggle has been trying to make it so that there were more people that we didn't serve than the ones that we did serve. And like I said, because of the referrals and the number of referrals we received, it was difficult to get to that integrated spot for us. We had real work expectations with quality. That apparently was something that she didn't see a lot in her travels, and felt that was a real positive thing. And of course, we had a lot of automation. We spend a lot of money on machinery, and whether that's a good thing or not, that's the decision we made back in those days, and we continue to work towards that. And we're a very integral part of our industrial community. This is going to be a challenge for us because as we have talked about our presentations, or in our presentations about the idea of downsizing, closing work centers, we have gotten resistance from the industrial community in the fact that we do answer some of the solution or some of the problems they've got and supply some of the things that they need. You take a look at our box making, they're looking at us and saying, you know, you're right down the street. We're able to come down and pick up whatever we want very quickly. It's a problem if we have to go outside of town. So it was a different kind of a conversation with that. So as to where we're going from here, we still want to increase individual placements. That is our goal. It always has been our goal. It's as everybody knows, that there can be some problems with that. We want to increase our enclave opportunities. We really feel that this is an area that we can do some good things with. We've got excellent relationships with businesses. That's not me. Jessica, do I keep talking?
Yeah, I apologize.
That's all right. Okay. The increase our enclave, that is our idea. We continue to integrate our current businesses. That's a goal. We continue to automate our current businesses to keep us out in that community. Since July 1st of 2013, we've placed 44 people. On July 1st, 2013, we had 176 people in work services. Today we have 160. We've placed 41 more people into enclave since July 1st. And that last sentence is wrong. It says today 128 of the 176 people we serve in work services are in enclave. Actually, it's 128 of 160. So 80% of the people we serve within our walls work out in the community as well. Our challenges and thoughts, can we survive following this business model? That's going to be a challenge. Can we increase the earning power of the people we serve above minimum wage? We've got a bunch that are above minimum wage. We have a bunch that are making more than our staff, actually, but not all of them, and the enclaves in particular are an issue. Small town Iowa ready for one of its major employers to change the business model. That's a concern. Are parents ready for this? Are folks ready for this? Same challenges everybody faces as they're making a change. And I think that's kind of the end of it. So my final statements over the noise is that we have our challenges. We want to do some good things with people. We've got some things we need to work on, and we're going to be aiming towards that in the next couple of years. We still believe that we will have work centers open because of the businesses that are in them. And I think I'm done.
All right, I apologize, everybody, for the sound of the fax. Hopefully that took care of it.
Hey, Terry, this is Dave, and I was wondering, as you talked about your business model approach and your work centers, could you touch base a little bit on how you're, are you moving those business models into a process of integration? Do you see those opportunities, as you stated, they're valuable to the community? So are there ways that you can continue to integrate that model into your future business plan and continue to integrate and operate those as self-sustaining businesses?
That's certainly our goal, and like I said, particularly in our small towns, we are an integral part of the industrial community. The idea that we would just shut them down and give them up doesn't make sense to us. Plus, the people we're serving they're earning valuable wages. Like I said, in many cases more than what our staff are actually making. So we think that the model is sound. We believe it is something that we can do that's going to make a difference in our people's lives. But it is the idea that we are going to reintegrate, meaning hiring people from the outside to come in and work in our businesses alongside our folks. And again, we continue to make placements. We had a legislative group come through in Jefferson last fall, and I, of course, wanted to take them through on a tour of the organization. Took them in the back, and we only had 2 people working in our box making and 4 people in our recycling area. And the legislator stared at me for a couple minutes, and I said, well, seriously, we do have more people that we're serving. But at that particular point, everybody was out on enclaves or other jobs. And so we think it's quite possible that we'll be able to continue with this, and it'll be viable.
I think it's pretty exciting, both what you and NIVC are doing as you look at this business plan, and as you look at how you're a resource to people with disabilities as well as a resource to your business community. I think you both touched on an important concept of building transferable skills. And you and Sherry both talked about a number of opportunities and ways that individuals have a chance to build skills that help them in their life journey. And I thought that was a real important component to what you both addressed. You had mentioned, Terry, that you got on board with the Employment First within the last year or so, and have been working on it. Could you share to the group any particular thing you've gotten out of that involvement that's helped you guys as you look at employment? I don't know if you can pinpoint any specific strategy or something that you've done that you've been exposed to that you're working specifically to help address community employment?
Well, I think Sherry commented earlier that, staff now are ready for change. And I think what we basically looked at with Employment First was we were able to bring in people to talk with our staff, and they heard it from a different source. It didn't come from me. It didn't come from our administrative staff. This is the way the world needs to be. So I think it was more of a sharing situation, and that they understood that, this isn't just kind of a wild hair idea. This is the direction people should be going. And I think it reaffirmed for them that, change is always out there, but this direction is the correct direction. And I think the networking we've had with the Employment First folks, the other organizations that are involved with it, has been valuable. But like I said, kind of a reassurance for our staff that we really believe that we're going in the right direction with this.
Great. Thank you very much. This was our inaugural attempt at this webinar. We'll work on making sure we try to keep getting better as we roll this out. I'm going to actually turn it over to Jess and have her talk a little bit about the survey and what we hope to do with that. And again, I want to reiterate that if you have ideas, topics, questions, shoot Jessica or myself an email. Use your QA chat. And again, you may not get an answer today, but we'll work on integrating that into what we need to do to make sure we address those topics. Thank you, Terry and Sherry. And Jess, I'm going to turn it back to you.
Thank you, David. As David said, we'd like you to please answer the survey or the poll question. If you have any other questions or comments that you would like to send to David or I through email, that's just fine as well. You'll also notice in the bottom left-hand corner, those are the 3 presentations that you heard today, the PowerPoints. You can download them directly here from Adobe, but we'll also send them out to the mailing list as well. We appreciate your patience with some of our technical difficulties today, and again, as David said, we'll hopefully get better as we go. But again, we'll leave the room open here for the next several minutes so that you can do the polls and provide your perspective as well as download the presentation. And again, we thank you for joining us today. And I think if that's it, or there's no other questions or comments, we could probably just end our webinar today. But again, I'll leave the room open so you can provide your comments and download the presentations. Thank you, everyone.